Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever this podcast may find you. It is I, Justin, and
I, Jaden.
Jaden is joining me this week because Gavin actually just got back from a long and arduous work trip in the desert doing a bunch of filming and stuff. So, being that he's taken the buck for me several times over the past couple months and helped out where I just had personal stuff going on, I decided to take it this time. So, what's up, Jaden?
Oh, just Mazdas and my problems with them.
Many issues
Yes.
and lots of other things. So,
Which we will touch on.
So without further ado, let's just get right on into it. Well, anyways, what's up, man?
Oh, not much.
So you're here in place of Gavin this week, which is interesting. I mean,
Yes.
So you're Jaden. What is Jaden? What's up with Jaden? You've been on the podcast before, but you haven't been here to like the actual quote unquote studio in my basement.
Correct. Yeah, I've done the podcast with Gavin in the bars.
Yeah.
So I think I've been on twice, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, the studio's nice. It's gonna be different. Hopefully, my audio is a little bit better.
It is. I mean, for what the attempt was to do in the bars, like the mics actually worked decent considering, ambient noise, food, plates, etc.
Absolutely.
But it's a little bit different when you're in here. We've got like posters, we've got Hot Wheels, we've got, we're trying to get a vibe going on here.
It's a vibe for sure.
So, but yeah, you're here helping me test out a couple things. So we actually swapped out our old iMac that used to run this whole setup with a PC. So we're kind of guinea pigging it right now. It's working great. We're also kind of just doing a bunch of shit. So like,
Yep.
I had a couple questions for you. So for those that don't know, because I don't actually recall all that you talked about on your previous episodes with the podcast,
Yes,
you have a Mazda 6
I do. I have a 2018 Mazda 6 Turbo.
with that has had a few problems.
Yes, it has. So, I drive that car hard. Have
Okay.
since the day I got it. I got it brand new, and I take it to the track and I rally that car
'Kay.
with some consequences. At about 72,000 miles, if I remember correctly, I blew the trans.
Okay, that's pretty low to be blowing a trans.
Yes.
And it's a manual.
No.
Yeah, I keep forgetting
It's-
yours is not a manual.
Yeah. So with that Mazda 6, they only offered the manual in the sport and touring package that came without the turbo.
And yours is probably the Grand Touring, right?
Mine is the Grand Touring
Gotcha.
with the turbo. That was the lowest package you could get with the turbo.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I had to sacrifice a manual transmission for the turbo.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunate, but the turbo took priority over the manual.
Yeah,
If you've ever driven a 2.5 Mazda without a turbo, they are shit slow.
it's pretty dumb.
They are slow.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I blew the trans and a couple other things. Recently, about 4 months ago, roughly.
So that would have been October-ish.
Yeah. End of September, 1st of October, roughly.
Okay.
I blew the head gasket.
At what mileage?
110,000.
You're going through the ringer here, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. So, not only did I blow the head gasket, when we were going through it, finding out what actually happened, because I didn't know for sure if it was a head gasket,
Okay.
I found my turbo was cracked
Shit.
and my exhaust manifold was cracked.
Which weren't known before.
No.
Those were new revelations.
Those were new.
Okay.
So, fresh turbo on the car, fresh exhaust manifold.
Fresh head
and
gasket.
Fresh head gasket and head studs.
How bad was that?
Bad.
Okay.
What's weird with that exhaust manifold costs more than the turbo.
Is it? That's weird.
So it's got the variable valve shit in it.
Okay.
It's all integrated into the exhaust manifold.
Okay.
So that turbo was about $1,100.
Okay, it's about average.
It was going to be more than that, but I work at a shop, so I got list price instead of,
Instead of retail.
or yeah, I got cost instead of list, I should say.
Yeah.
So that saved me quite a bit. So I paid about $1,100 for the turbo, and it was almost $1,200 for the exhaust manifold.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, that's and then head gaskets are cheap. That the part itself is not expensive. It's the labor.
And that was 14 hours of labor.
That's I've heard far worse.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not too bad because it can all be done in car, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No pulling of the engine, nothing like that.
So out the door like 5-ish.
I got a deal.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit less than that, but yeah,
Still a lot of money to be putting into a 4.5-year-old car.
exactly. Yeah.
That's holy shit. I also forgot that you got that around the same time I got my Stinger. When did you get that exactly?
I got that of September of 18.
Okay, so it was because it's a 2019 model year.
No, it's an 18.
It is an 18.
Yeah, because that was the redesign of the new Mazda 6.
Gotcha. So that was a really late 18. Then.
Very late 18.
Okay, so about 6 months after I got mine, you got that.
Yep.
Okay, not too shabby. You had a little bit more. Well, granted, you've had the car a lot longer than I had my Stinger, but
Yeah.
yeah. So you've had a little bit of a run of some problems. I don't know if mine would have had problems because it was gone after year 1.
Yeah.
But that's wild. Okay, and for those that are listening, it's red, and as he just said, it's a turbo. It's first year of the redesign with the newer more curvy but slightly angular body style with the bigger grille up front and
The the fenders, quarters, and stuff like that all look very, very similar.
yeah.
The main redesign was on the grille and that front end, and a little bit change on the taillights.
And the entire interior.
And the entire interior, yeah.
Because the old interior of the second gen Mazda 6 was boring.
Yes. So mine is like, people consider it a 4th gen.
Okay.
I still consider it the 3rd.
Yeah. So like how does that work?
I just consider it a facelift of the 3rd.
Gotcha.
But considering it does have a new motor addition or option,
Yeah.
and a full redesigned interior, I do understand where people are coming at with the new 4th gen.
So do you know what? I'm actually curious. I'm going to look it up. Do you know what Mazda considers it? Does Mazda consider it a 3rd gen?
I don't know what Mazda has said about that exactly.
So let's see. Let's fire up the old Wikipedia machine. So first gen, which is the Mazda Speed 6 variant for those listening, like the only variant we got.
Correct.
And then second gen was the one where it was like very, I like to call it triangularly because like the headlights kind of come to a point and all this stuff.
And I personally am not a fan of that year.
I'm not either. I mean, so my aunt has a 2007 or 8 or whatever was the first year of this in North America, which was 2009. So hers is a 2009.
Okay.
It's boring, but it has been a reliable car for her. They're good cars. They're just not interesting whatsoever.
Yeah. They had the 3.7 V6 in them.
Yep.
The other, was it a 3.7 V6? Because I know the first gen had the 3.0 V6. Okay.
3.7. So yeah, it did have the 3.7, and then I guess they just call yours a 3rd gen. But it says up to 21 in North America. That's interesting. Wait, did they stop?
Yeah. The Mazda 6
I'm
is
out of touch.
discontinued.
In North America. At least it says to present, so I'm guessing everywhere else in the world it's still sold.
But yeah, North America, it is discontinued.
I don't know how I missed that memo.
Yeah, no, it's Mazda. Nobody really keeps up with it except for me.
Well, I mean, that's the irony, though. I don't know if you know this. My first car was Mazda.
Oh, I think I remember you telling me about that.
So let me see if I can pull up a picture just for your reference. My first car was a 1989 Mazda MX-6, which I don't know if you know what an MX-6 is.
Oh, I do.
But mine was the earlier body style.
Oh, the more square.
Mine was the square body
okay.
style like this. And my car in particular was kind of interesting because it was a mid-level. So there was basically 4 different packages you could get in the first gen MS6. There was base, there was LX, then there was turbo, which was the top trim, and then there was one in between, and I don't remember what it was. Actually, sorry, mine was an LX with a bunch of options.
Okay.
But they could, in the first gen MS6, there was a MX6, sorry, I can't talk this morning. There was a bunch of weird add-ons that you could get. So if you got an MX6 turbo, you could get 4-wheel steering on it.
Oh, okay.
And dynamic ride.
and dynamic ride on that. Really,
it's a fairly wild car where Mazda just I don't even know why. Like this
well, in those late '80s, early '90s, a lot of the Japanese cars had the 4-wheel steer.
yes, and this also platform shares with the 626 and the Ford Probe, ironically.
Okay.
But if we scroll down, oh yeah, here we go. LE, LX, DX, and GT. So DX was the base model.
Okay.
GT, if you look right here, disc brakes it had 4-wheel disc brakes with ABS, whereas the LX that I had was front disc, rear drum, 3-way electronically adjustable suspension. The thing is, I've tried to figure out what exactly their suspension did.
Yeah.
Because it's really early for any DRC type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really been able to find any info. I just know that they're somewhat dynamic somehow. I know they're not air, but so mine was a mid-generation, and it had the 2.2 non-turbo, and mine was also an automatic. The weird thing was with that automatic, so instead of having like when you go down to you have drive and then usually 3 and 2 to like gear down.
Yeah.
Instead of having that, well, it did have that, but then it had a button on the side that said hold. So, and what that would do is just step everything down. So it'd make it so that drive was gear 3, the next step down was gear 2, and then all the way down was gear 1. So you could kind of manually hold the gears completely, and it wouldn't end up shifting whatsoever. So if I pushed the hold button when I was just in drive, it would start in 3rd gear.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm sure that wasn't good for the transmission, but it did it. I don't know what on earth their thought process was, where usually, if you just click that, it's just an overdrive off button in those older cars.
Yeah.
So it just does 1, 2, and 3, but doesn't shift into 4th.
Yeah.
Weird shit. But then again, this was really prior to Miata, because Miata was 90.
That's right.
So this car was actually there earlier. And it was just a bizarre world. I don't really know how else to explain it. It was just totally different.
With the Miata, actually. Did they release that overseas in '89?
You know what? Good question. You are asking the absolute wrong person about Miata things. So we will learn together live. Let's see. MX-5.
Isn't it like the Unos?
Yeah, 89.
Unos?
It is. Yeah, it is 89.
Cool.
But either way, those came out. The MX-6s were several years earlier. That was, I don't even know if they tried to brand it as a sports car, quote unquote, or not. I have no clue, because it was a weird car. It was, again, on a 626 chassis with mostly naturally aspirated engines that were single overhead cam, by the way. So not even dual overhead cam.
Okay.
So like my car, if we look right here, had 110 horsepower.
Wow.
Yeah.
Astonishing numbers there.
What's weird though is if you look, it had more torque than horsepower. It was a very torquey engine.
My current Mazda has more torque than horsepower,
but it's turbocharged, so that makes sense.
Okay, that's fair.
But for a naturally aspirated gasoline engine to have more torque than horsepower that's atypical.
That's fair.
Fair. Whereas turbocharged, I mean, if you look down here, 145 to 190 pound-feet. So that makes sense. Just like your modern car will probably have somewhere, stock was around 200, I'm sure, or something like that.
So my car, quote unquote, it says, or the brochure says 250 horse.
Okay.
310 torque.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I knew they were spicy because we drove your car. Like I drove your car and we filmed it. That's one of our older videos, but I actually didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah. And I recently, back in June, I actually put it on the dyno.
Okay. What was it still making at that point?
My dyno numbers showed 308 torque.
Okay.
And I do have some modifications to it now.
Yeah.
And 228 horse.
So it's a little low on the horsepower.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Maybe that was an early sign of the head gasket going.
It's possible.
It'd be interesting to re-dyno it.
Yeah, and I do plan on re-dynoing it in June again.
Okay.
I go out to an event called Mazda Takeover in Idaho.
Nice. Okay.
So it's just a bunch of Mazda guys that go out and party and go do car shit.
Nice.
So we always try to do a drag night and go out to the drag strip, do a dyno day, canyon cruise.
Hell yeah.
And just have a shit ton of fun. But that's generally where I will go out and do my dynos.
Okay.
The issue with doing a dyno on my car is it's hard to get accurate numbers on an automatic.
True.
So,
Because you can't really hold it in gears like you're supposed to
Yeah.
as much. Yeah, that's true. And yours is just front wheel. Yours before they did all wheel drive.
so the Mazda 6 comes in all-wheel drive
Mm-hmm.
in a diesel version overseas.
That's where I couldn't remember because I know that this new generation of Mazda 3s where they brought all wheel drive in.
Yeah.
They've had all wheel drive in the CX-5 and several other things, and I believe the CX-5 and the Mazda 6 share the same platform. I think, don't they?
No.
They don't. Okay.
So, well, they share, as well as Mazda, they all have the 2.5.
Yep.
They're putting the 2.5 turbo in damn near everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is their engine.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know how much they share minus the motor.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Mazda 6, if it was all-wheel drive, I would keep this car for the life.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think after their experiences with their Haldex issues in the Mazda Speed 6,
The Speed 6 was rough. The all-wheel drive system on the Speed 6 was rough.
I think they have a little bit of PTSD from that, and they're like, yeah, we don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually just found some old pictures of my car real quick, and then we'll probably move on from that, but just so you have more context. So when I got mine, it went away. I'll drag this up. So when I got mine, it had the original kind of like star pattern wheels on it, and we got it from the second owner. We only paid $900 for it.
Wow.
It was really cheap. It had the original like mud guards and a trailer hitch and all these other weird things. Basically, the original owner was an old lady that worked on Hill Air Force Base.
Okay.
So it had like a base pass sticker on it, which I thought was so cool. I mean, I thought it was hot shit in high school. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I could go drive on the base. No, I couldn't. It was like 4 years expired. But it came with these checkerboard floor mats, clearly not stock, but like I've tried to find those floor mats again. I'm really pissed I sold the car with them. I should have kept them.
Wow. Those are
Very Japanese
very
of the era.
Japanese. Yes. Yeah.
The seats, however, are really nice. They're surprisingly buckety for a not sports car from the late 80s.
Those bolsters don't look bad.
They're not bad, and they were like velvet velour. They were really soft.
Okay.
They weren't like normal cloth. And the whole car was really clean. The gear stick, the
That's
automatic
very
transmission
90s,
is
late 80s gear stick.
it's like, the foot extension on it to go down to the console. I think this was the day I got it. So this is one thing that had happened is the second owner had hit a deer and crumpled the fender and the headlight stuff. So we had to fix that. This is literally me taking photos on my phone like at midnight at the day we got it. So they're all dark and shit. I reblacked those. I actually did really like the little spoiler it had on it. It was kind of funny. It only had like 100,000 miles.
Wow.
Let's see. It also had a feature that I wish Mazda would have never gotten rid of, which was there's that base pass sticker.
Oh,
right
there
there,
you go.
Department of Defense. The one thing I really wish they wouldn't have ever gotten rid of is I think I have a picture. It had a sunroof too, so it was pretty loaded for what it was.
Yeah.
Come on, I know I have a picture of it somewhere. Basically, the vents that do the automatic oscillation. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
I have not.
So Mazda in basically the 80s through the 2000s, like the Millennia was the last one to have this. In between the two vents, they had a little button, and if you push that, the center vents would oscillate back and forth, kind of like some of those little desktop fans that you get.
Okay.
So that it would kind of circulate the air around. Those are the wheels I got for it, which I actually think it looked really good with those for the time, That was the first like car modification I ever
Era correct.
Exactly. In 2010, that was the first car modification I ever did. Was bought these cheap drag wheels from Discount Tire. I never had problems with them. They never broke, thank God.
We always have stories with our first cars.
Everybody has a rep wheel story. I don't care how good you are.
Yeah.
And she rode like a fucking bus, like as you can tell.
Yeah.
I don't know why that picture's in there. That's a couple other cars that I almost had.
Is that an SSEI Bonneville?
It wasn't. It was just a mid-level one.
I had a buddy in high school that had that as his first car, an SSEI Bonneville.
The supercharged one? Oh, yeah. They're fun. We also had to have these hood pins because the hood latch never worked after the accident. So we just fucking drilled holes and put these hood pins in there just to keep the hood down. It was great.
I love it.
Except for then I had friends at high school that knew my car and would come out and unplug my spark plug wires as a prank.
Of course.
Because they could just pop the hood even if the car was locked.
Yep.
I did put an exhaust on it because the exhaust was rusted out. So we got a Thrush, just the cheap ones that you can get from AutoZone.
Okay.
It worked okay.
Nice.
Oh yeah, my radiator cracked and we tried to JB weld it back together. Anyways,
That's a gnarly crack on the radiator.
Oh yeah, it just cracked straight in half. It was just across the whole fucking top.
Yeah.
It was wild. And that was me trying to fix this panel on the inside that was pulling up. That was that. I actually had a pretty baller sound system in that thing too. So I had these like 4 JBL 6x9s, a 12-inch sub in a box that I made myself, and an ancient amplifier that actually kicked pretty fucking good.
There you go.
For what it was. And I found a whole bunch of like old photos of people doing total JDM body kits, you know, like Need for Speed or, you know, Fast and Furious level body kits. It was kind of funny. The whole time I had this thing, there's just so many crazy things. But, oh yeah, I can show this. This was I had my debit card, like one of those pictures for a long time. But
I love it.
Anyways, yeah, it was fun. What was your high school car?
So,
on that face.
So, a little bit of background.
Okay.
I didn't get my license until I was 19.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I never had a high school car, but my first car was a 1989 Toyota Camry.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. So, I got that for $400 from my mom's coworker.
Nice.
I had it for 2 months.
Okay.
Drove great. I just found another car. And as a car guy, I was like, okay, I'm going to dump this Camry.
Yeah.
And move on. But that's, you know, without saying that I didn't do dumb shit with my first car.
Of course you did. Everybody does.
Yeah. So I bought that car. All 4 struts were blown.
Nice.
Like I said, the motor ran great, but all 4 struts were blown. So I would go around doing dumb shit with my friends. We'd load it up with all my friends. I'd gun it and then slam on the brakes just to see how far we could get the front end to go down. See if we could get the rear wheels to lift. Never did.
Damn.
Unfortunately.
You'd have to put everybody in the hood.
We thought about that, but I was actually a little bit cognitive of how safe and unsafe some things were.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So luckily we didn't ever do that. But I did do the, you know, AutoZone air intake on it. And
I mean, we all did. You saw my pictures.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same deal. So yeah, I never put, like I said, I had the car for 2 months, so I never did real dumb shit with it, modification wise.
Yeah.
But I sold that 2 months later and bought my first Mazda,
which was
a 2004 Mazda 6 wagon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also red.
And that was the first year of the Mazda 6, right?
2002, I think.
Because I know
2003.
Right around then was when they transitioned from 626 to Mazda 6.
Correct. I think technically overseas it was 03, and then
naturally, as with everything, we get shit sticked and
Yep.
didn't get it till the next model year. Right here, 2003 model year.
Okay.
So production started in 02, selling as 03 models.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so that's fair. And you
So
said that was a wagon?
It was a wagon.
Dude,
it was the
nice.
only wagon of the Mazda 6 that we got in the U.S.
'Cause it was the V6, right?
It was.
Yep.
They only came with the V6
That's what I thought.
as the wagons. And I love that car. I had that car for 4 years. And then I bought another one at the same time. So I had 2 Mazda 6 wagons.
Hell yeah, you're really pushing the wagon elitist jerk philosophy.
Yes. I had 2 04 Mazda 6 wagons at the same time. It was real hard with insurance.
Yeah.
Mainly because the VINs weren't that far apart.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, shoot, I don't know which car this is. So it was a nightmare. And technically, one of them is still registered under my name.
Oh, boy.
I blew the motor in that one.
Mm-hmm.
I bought that one for $900.
Yep.
Had a rod knock. I was just going to daily it for the winter. Didn't care too much.
Yeah.
I blew the motor in that and parted it out. and then some guy came and bought the car from me and never fixed it, so it is still registered under my name.
Sitting somewhere.
Do
you know where?
No idea. Not a clue. So I still get letters. Wow. Letters in the mail about my recalls.
Oh, fuck. That's great.
And knowing 04 Mazdas,
There's a
lot of recalls. Mainly the Takata airbags.
Yep. Just like everything from that era. Yeah, I know where one of my old cars is. So when I wrecked my Audi S6 wagon, how I fixed it, because there was less than 1,000 of those sold in the States, so it's pretty rare, but they also trade hands fairly often, so they're not that hard to find. And mine was also one of the most common colors, which was just straight silver.
Okay.
There happened to be one about 2 months in. I was like starting to gather a game plan, and I had other cars, so it was just sitting in my garage with the front end off after I figured out what all had gotten damaged. Fortunately, although the timing belt got nicked, it didn't actually snap. So like, it didn't do any catastrophic damage. It was just like all the normal shit: bumper, fender, hood, radiator, condenser, etc.
Okay.
I found this one on Facebook Marketplace that was local. That looked, the body looked straight, but the rest of the car looked destroyed and had about 202,000 miles. And the dude had snapped the timing belt.
Okay.
He was asking $1,000. I talked him down to $500. Just saying, I'd come there with the trailer, pick it up. I go there. Car is, oh my God. The sad thing is the car was pretty disgusting, and it had one of the rarest interiors, which was Alcantara suede center seats, which for that year, so those were really common in like B5 S4s and in B8 and 8.5 S4s. They offered, like the red centers and all this.
Yeah.
But in the C5, the larger chassis generations, that's not very common. So it was kind of sad that that had gotten destroyed. It was one of the reasons I wanted to buy the car, besides the body.
Yeah.
So I bought that whole car, swapped a bunch of stuff over, grabbed all the body parts, because part of the reason it got totaled was that whole front end is aluminum. So damn expensive. And the car was only worth about $9,000 at that point. So pretty much as they were adding everything up, they got halfway and said, yep, it's fucked.
Fuck.
So I bought that car, pulled all the parts I needed off of it. I made probably triple the amount of money I invested in that car. No, more than that. Because I sold the I sold the trans for $300. I'll tell you a story about that off air later. That was really funny. I sold like the headliner. I sold just as many parts as I could, and I kept the front, the hood, the bumper, and the fenders, and just junked everything else. But where I was getting at with this was the shell of that car still exists. I sold it to an individual named Ben, who's a prominent local Audi guy that's in Salt Lake. He actually is the one that owns the S6 that we had on our Audi shoot.
Oh, okay.
So I sold that chassis to him because he was thinking about turning it into a trailer. So it's
okay.
The car still exists.
I'm here for it.
And the other thing is, I never had the title because the backstory with this dude, and I did enough to verify that the car hadn't been stolen or anything, and it was his name registered. But the dude that owned that car used to live with his brother, and allegedly the title's at his brother's place, as well as one of the wheels. It had a set of 4 wheels, and it was on a Steely on one of them.
Okay.
So I knew it didn't have a title, but I inquired when I was buying it, and he's like, "No, it's at my fucking brother's house. If you want it, you got to go get it yourself. I ain't talking to him." It was this whole, I'm like, "Oh, Jesus." Okay. So I actually did. It's been more than 5 years. It's whatever. I trespassed and snuck around the back of his brother's house. He literally told me, "Here's the address. The wheels around the back of the house. If you want to go get it, be my guest."
Wow.
So I did it. I got the wheel, but I obviously didn't get the title. So that was part of the reason that Ben was going to turn it into a trailer, because nobody has the title.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go through the effort, because at one point it had a loan on it that I called the institution, and the loan had been paid off, but the title hadn't been taken in to get the lien release done.
Jesus. So that car's just a whole ass nightmare.
It is. But fortunately, it served the purpose of getting mine back on the road.
Okay.
But anyways, I still know where that shell exists. So I mean,
I like it.
It would be funny to do something with that in the long run, but who knows what else is going to do. Go with that.
So speaking of knowing where your old cars are, I now don't know where it is, but my red Mazda 6 wagon, I would constantly get pictures from my friends.
Nice.
Saying, "Hey, this is where it's at. I just saw it in Heber."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, okay. It's cool. I was going over to my friend's house. Well, my friend's mom's house.
Yeah.
We were doing like a family dinner, really close friends. I was going over to her house, and no joke, a block away from her house, I see it parked on the side of the road.
Oh, shit.
So I pull over right behind it, take a picture of it. I'm like, that's my old car. And the owner walks out. And I'm all like, is this your car? And he's all like, yeah. I was all like, this used to be mine. I sold it to get this car, and I'm, in my new Mazda 6.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, that's really cool. And we just sat and bullshitted for a little while.
Yeah.
I gave him my number. I was like, if you ever sell it, call me.
Hell yeah.
I want this car back. Never got a call, and I haven't seen it there since.
Ah,
so I had no idea where that car's at now.
Funny thing is, on that similar vein, I do have two major automotive regrets. Ironically, it's not one of them is not necessarily getting rid of the Stinger.
Oh.
I do miss the car dearly and wish I didn't get rid of it, but there was reasons I needed to get rid of it because I needed my Tacoma. There was
business reasons.
Yeah, there was reasons. I needed to have something else in my life, and I could not afford to keep both.
For sure.
The one I do regret is my S6 that I traded in for the Stinger.
Okay.
Because I owned it outright. I didn't need to trade it in. And on top of that, by that point, after having gone through that whole rebuild process and putting everything back together, it had pretty much every rare part.
Oh, no.
It had the rarest seats. It had the rarest steering wheel. I had the European-only navigation in there. I had what were called whisper quiet bars, where they were, a roof rack that went left to right, but they were actually at the same level as like the roof bars that go front to back. So super sleek roof rack.
Okay.
I had an awesome set of winter tires for it, as well as 2 sets of wheels. I mean, it had 168,000 miles by the time I sold it, I think, but was still running great. Like, everything had been done. Everything mechanically had been done. It had every rare part. Probably $4,000 or $5,000 more value in rare parts than what I got on trade-in.
Oh, Jesus.
So
that's always rough.
I look back and I'm like, man, at the time it made so much sense to trade it in to drop my payment on the Stinger, like $100. But at the same time, goddamn, I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, I really could have kept that car.
Yeah.
There wasn't any reason that I couldn't have, and just paid an extra $100. Well, $100 a month on the Stinger, and then like $50 a month in insurance.
Yeah.
I really shouldn't have. That's one of them. The other one, there's a litany. I've had like 20 some odd cars over the years.
I'm close. Not quite 20. I've had about 15.
Yeah. I think the other one would actually probably be my high school MX-6.
Okay.
Because as a little backstory to me, that got sold because at the time I was still a good little Mormon boy and went on a mission.
Oh, okay.
Way back when. And then came back 6 months in.
Quick mission.
But yes, yeah. But we sold that as I was leaving, and I really wish we wouldn't have, because those have become extraordinarily hard to find.
Yeah.
Those early ones.
At the time, it makes sense. And then you think about it and you're like, shit.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I hate, is that you never know which ones you're going to truly miss, because there's a bunch that I've sold that I haven't missed.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch that I've made money on, like getting them for really cheap, fixing some stuff and selling them.
Yep.
Don't necessarily miss those. But I definitely miss those two in particular. I really wish I wouldn't have. I wish there was a way I could have kept my Stinger. Like, I don't regret the decision. I do wish that there was somehow I could have just kept both, somehow managed, but the payments on both of those cars were fairly extreme.
Yeah.
Ironically, the payment on my truck would have been cheaper if I didn't trade in the Stinger. So here's how that worked out.
Yeah, let's hear that.
I couldn't, from a credit perspective, I couldn't afford to hold both on my credit.
Okay.
Because it would have been just too much debt to income.
Yep.
Because at that time, I also technically wasn't employed because I was starting up a business.
Oh,
but my credit was still good enough, and everything still looked good at that point, that I could still qualify to like finance the Tacoma, but only if I got rid of the loan on the Stinger.
Okay.
And so the irony is, the payment on the Tacoma would have probably been about $150 a month less had I been able to finance both, because of that negative equity that moved over from the Stinger.
Okay.
little confusing.
I get it.
Yeah.
I've done enough buying and selling that it completely makes sense to me.
Yeah, and that car was just funny because how I had to do that deal was the Toyota dealership didn't really want it because at that point they were also in the camp of we don't know if we can sell this even though it's only a year old. At that point, everybody was still questioning whether the Stinger was actually a good buy or not.
Okay.
So I actually went, the Toyota dealer in question was across the street from the dealer that I bought my Stinger from. The Kia,
Okay.
they're both literally right there. So I went across the street to the Kia dealer, got a quote from them. They wrote a document that they signed, and I gave to Toyota saying that they would buy the car. Basically, it just was a wholesale ring around where I traded it in at Toyota. They just immediately turned around and sold it at the same price to Kia so that Kia could sell it as a used vehicle. And then I was able to get the Tacoma. But speaking of that, you've actually driven a Stinger recently.
Recently, yes.
What are your thoughts?
That car is phenomenal. And I drove it with 110,000 miles.
Which is a damn sight more than mine had or still has.
Yes. That car handles great. That car feels planted.
Yeah.
It's a very planted car.
For what it is, it's not technically a sports sedan, but more of a grand touring type of thing, it does very well.
And it feels big when
does.
I very first got in it.
Mm-hmm.
The more I drove it, and I only had it for about 48 hours.
Yeah.
The more I drove it, the smaller it felt. As weird as that may sound, I got more in tune with the size.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit more confident with driving that car. In a way. I knew where the bumpers were. I could bob and weave if I needed to.
Yeah.
Not that I did.
Yeah, I get you.
But no, that car, it's very refined, and I was very skeptical with it still being a Kia.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in it, and it felt like I was in a Mercedes.
It feels around the same as like a C-Class.
Absolutely.
Roughly entry-level Mercedes quality.
Yeah, absolutely. And
and I remember when I first got mine, some people would complain that like on those doors, the lower door sills were still kind of the same plastic that every other Kia would have.
yeah.
The defense that I had to that was, well, it won't get damaged then.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, the lower doors are still cheap Kia plastic, but then it doesn't get damaged. There's no leather or stupid fine materials that you could kick getting in and out. So, okay.
Exactly.
It's pragmatic. Anyways, continue.
It makes sense. So that car was fun.
And what spec was it?
It was the GT2.
Was it the all-wheel drive?
It was all-wheel drive.
Okay.
Yep. So it looked exactly like yours. Red, black interior.
Mine was launch spec, so they like in that first year they only at the very beginning they basically only had 3 colors, which was red, blue, and
Was it that like
I think
gray?
Yes.
Was it the gray?
Yes,
the Nardo gray.
They called it ceramic silver. I
Ceramic
believe,
silver,
or
okay.
something along those lines. But yeah, they had basically 3 launch specs, which was red on black, blue on white, and ceramic gray. That's what it was, on red interior.
Oh, okay.
So those were the 3 ones you could get if you went in for the first 2 months.
Wow.
But
okay.
the red on black was the most popular because that was the one in all the press photos.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the red on that car looks phenomenal.
It does. It's, in fact, way back when, I think Gavin and I had a conversation that red is probably second only to like your car where it's the really deep metallic Mazda red and a couple others.
Okay. Yeah, no, I love the red on that car. And yeah. When we did the shoot of my car,
Yeah.
I have a picture of the Stinger and my car
Nice.
next to each other, of your Stinger.
Yeah.
And there's not that many differences in the color.
There's not. They're very similar.
They are very similar. But back onto the topic of the Stinger that I drove. So I work up in Park City.
Okay.
And I have to drive, Parley's Canyon every day.
Yep.
That all-wheel drive was phenomenal going up that canyon. And that car handled that canyon amazing. There was a little bit of snow when I was going up, so I didn't get to drive it in deep snow.
Yep.
But it handled the snow great. I had 0 questions on that car if it was going to do it or not. I knew it was.
Let's see. So what's funny is these were some of the photos of my Stinger on Antelope. Clearly, we're doing an unnamed speed right there.
Yep.
That was one of the ones I was going to pull up. So like,
I like that.
how I had that thing practically buried in snow, even with the stock tires, which were the Pilot Sport 4S, 4SAS or whatever, the all-season variants of the Pilot Sport 4Ss.
Okay.
And they did fantastic. And like I hooned that shit just like you hoon your Mazda.
Yep.
It was phenomenal.
Sounds like you had better luck with the Stinger than my Mazda.
Yeah, that right there was the day that we actually shot your car, I believe. Or it was like the week before. Because we did a thing on my car right there, and then it was not that long afterwards that we did your car.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is wild to see where they've come. And it does look like 2023 will finally be the last year of the Stinger because there's been rumors of that since like 21 that it will be the final model year. But now they've actually come out with a thing saying it will be the final model year officially. So,
and do you know why they're killing it off?
Yes. So there's a couple reasons. The factory that the Stinger is built in is the most advanced factory Kia owns. And being that they're switching so heavily into EV6 and things of that nature, that factory has started to become more and more used to produce EVs instead of the Stinger. The Stinger also, it's never sold that well. It has sold better than some other, types of first launch cars.
Yeah.
But it's been a very consistent but low volume seller.
And that's why I was thinking that we're getting rid of it. So that makes sense.
It's sold enough. If you look around, you do see them fairly often.
You do.
I'm actually curious if I can even find the sales numbers because the last time I looked it up was too early to even see sales numbers.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. Okay. Yeah, so there you go. So, yeah, I mean, they've sold just over 10,000 a year, but the last couple years, so, I mean, obviously we're
22.
We're obviously in 2023 right now, so we have no clue. But, 13,000 year one, 12,000 year two, 13,000 year three. And then now 2022 was only 7,800.
Wow.
So they sold a decent amount. They probably after this year will end up at like 45,000 cars sold.
Yeah.
Not bad considering the them launching into a completely new segment that they had nothing to do with prior to that car.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious what the 23 sales are going to be now that they're killing it off. Seeing if people are like, oh, shoot. I want to get this car.
Who knows? We'll have to see.
Yeah.
I'll be super curious. However, I do have something cool. I have two things. Actually, I just realized this didn't include 2018. Keep saying 3 more rows, but it won't do it. I did just realize that it did not. Oh, there we go.
Oh. All right.
So where is 2018? Okay. So 2018, they didn't give me. Oh, there you go. I forgot. There were. I think they're counting here. This is not by model year. This is by year sold because technically the Stinger landed December of 17 in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Even though it was a 2018 model year.
Yeah.
So there we go. So actually 16,000 year one.
Wow.
More than I thought.
Not bad.
So actually they'll probably end up at like 55,000 looking at this. And they claim to have sold only 466 in 23. But that's also only January, not the time that somebody would be looking to buy a entry-level sports Grand Touring sedan.
Correct.
So,
I mean, most of them are rear-wheel drive. You have to get the GT2 in order to get all-wheel drive.
Nope.
Really? I thought you had to get the GT2 to get all-wheel drive.
Nope. So
really?
What they did, which is actually kind of cool, is you can spec that car any trim with either drive system. Now, that would involve you ordering it from the factory, but as far as here in Utah, they were pretty smart with how they shipped things in. So when I went to the dealer, they only had 3 cars available. They had my car, which is the red and black GT2, every option, all-wheel drive.
Yep.
They had a blue one, also the same, every option, all-wheel drive.
Okay.
And then they had an entry-level 4-cylinder, which was base model, but all-wheel drive.
I didn't know they did the base model in all-wheel drive.
Yep. So any trim, which is, you can kind of build it like Lego pieces. The all-wheel drive can be an add-on for any configuration.
Oh, okay.
So you could have the way they did it was they had base, and then they had premium, which was the 4-cylinder that had like all the options of like a GT1. So it had the nicer sound system, a few other creature comforts.
Yeah.
And then when you went to base GT, which was the twin turbo V6, the Brembos, etc.,
Yeah.
you actually lost features from the premium.
Whoa. Okay.
So you could actually get a fully loaded 4-cylinder that would have more options than a base GT, like as far as the more luxury things. And then you went GT1 where you got a color center screen and a few other things, and then GT2. The main difference with GT2 was that was where you got the dynamic ride, you got the heads-up display, you got the bigger center screen for the touch screen, you got the higher-end sound system, the power lift gate, just a lot of luxury features, really, at that point. So yeah, it was interesting. You could kind of pick or choose any model in all-wheel drive.
Okay. Did you have to get the GT2 in order to get launch control?
No.
No? Just, I assume just
any
the
of the GTs.
Okay.
Nope. And it's really launch control, like, it only dumps from like 2000. It's not really anything crazy because it's a standard automatic. But no, you didn't have to get that to get it. But, the GT2 also has different seats than the rest of them.
Oh, okay.
So those soft Napa leather seats, the rest of them are a more textured seat, kind of like BMWs.
Okay.
But every GT model and up got heated and cooled seats, the heated steering wheel, all those little creature comforts. Like the amount of stuff that car actually had in it was pretty good for its price point as far as features and options and stuff like that.
For sure.
Anyways, but what I was going to do is I actually have this here, which is kind of cool. I'm going to toss this over to you.
Let's check it out. Little Stinger GT book, huh?
So, excuse me. So what that is, I technically never would have gotten that. So that book is, if you were one of the first 1,000 to buy a Stinger, you got that book. So, and that page that you turned in the very front, that was actually a letter from, I think it was the CEO.
Yep, president and CEO.
Yep, and so you got a letter basically saying, thank you for taking a risk, and then you got this whole book, which this book is hilarious that they would give this to a Stinger owner, because it's just marketing fluff. Like, that's all it is. If you turn the pages, it's just a bunch of pictures. Like, it's just a bunch of press photos with cheesy sayings and stuff.
Yep.
But I found an individual wanting to sell their book.
Wow.
And so I purchased that, because I never got one since I was just after the first 1,000. I was actually in the first 2,500, because the first 2,500, you got another little care package. So I got a hat, and I got actually some Harman Kardon headphones with Kia Stinger on them.
Oh, fancy.
So I still have those. But I never got that book. So when I found the opportunity to buy one, I got it, since there were so few of them.
And this is number 696 of 1,000.
Yep.
Okay.
So it was really cool to find it, and those have started trading hands for big dollars.
Really?
Because they only printed 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
You couldn't buy that book. Dealerships couldn't buy that book, even as like a press thing.
Has this got a...
It's textured, and it's really thick.
Yeah.
And...
That's a nice quality book right there.
Yeah, so I got it for like $150, but like they're starting to trade hands for like 400 plus.
Wow.
Just because anybody that's really enthusiastic about the car wants that book.
Yeah, for sure.
Understandably, I wouldn't have paid any more than I did for it, especially when it's, not my car that it came with.
Exactly.
But
that makes sense.
I think as far as a piece of memorabilia, it was worth the $150 I paid for it.
Yeah.
Just because it's a piece of history, kind of, in a way.
Yeah. But, and you loved that car. It was
to Gavin's chagrin, but also Gavin agreeing. I loved the shit out of that car.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. But
so it's nice to have something like that sitting around.
So with you having test driven one, like, are you actually thinking of getting rid of the Mazda?
I am.
Okay.
So I mean, I toy with the idea. Let's say that.
Okay.
I've thought about it recently. But at this point, I've put money into it to keep it running.
Mm-hmm.
Then I may just keep this car and pay it off.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to toy with the idea. If I do pay it off, I want to see if I can manual swap it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this. I want to see if I can make that car a full-blown track car if I keep it.
Definitely possible.
I've got a ton of suspension work done on it, and it's, even with a front-wheel drive, bigger four-door car, it's still fun on the track.
Yeah.
But I was toying with the idea of selling it and getting a Stinger. One of my coworkers loves the Stinger. And I was like, all right, I've heard great things about it. I'll go give it a test drive.
Yeah.
I test drove it. I love the car as well. So, yeah, I'm thinking about getting rid of it. I toy with the idea constantly, and I have for the last 2 years.
How much longer would it be before you pay off the Mazda if you were to keep it?
3 years.
Okay. So not too long. And yeah, you could do it. It's same situation with me and like the Tacoma. It just becomes difficult having 2 larger car payments.
Yeah.
So it could happen.
It could.
Where you could keep that and turn it into a track car. Because, I mean, as much as you say you might get flack for it, technically speaking, anything is possible with enough time and money.
And I don't give a shit what other people think about me.
That's the best thing. Like, if you're trying to... This happens so often in the car community, and that's why people do a lot of what I call automotive posturing, where they'll buy the newest, biggest thing. It'll basically be like their Gucci handbag accessory for them to go parade around with. That's fine. If that is really what you want to do, all power to you. It is very much, in my opinion, not what a car is for, and also not what I would ever do with a car. I enjoy owning the thing, sharing the thing with people, and putting the thing through its paces, and really getting, to know the nuances and living with it, the Stinger and everything else.
That's exactly what I've done with my car.
Yeah. Exactly. You've really, that Mazda 6 has had more of a life than most of them, because most of them are just normal cars to most people. And I think taking the opinion of, okay, cool, well, this is cool to me. I understand that that's my opinion, but I'm going to go throw it on the track and enjoy the shit out of it. Even though it is by no means the perfect track weapon.
No, God, no.
That's kind of the fun of it sometimes.
Exactly.
Another thing Gavin has mentioned quite often is I'm quite a bit more of an automotive masochist. I kind of like, we'll call it a little bit of torture along with my automotive experience, whether that's mechanical problems or even just cars that don't like to do what you want to do necessarily. Yeah. It's part of the reason I love driving semis is you really are intrinsically involved with just making it function because it sometimes doesn't want to. And that's where like I enjoy driving the Saab or would enjoy tracking the Saab if I really wanted to, because I would enjoy the fact that I know that this thing's never going to win any races from a time perspective competing with anybody else. Yeah. I enjoy, like, how far can I take it if I was really to do something like that. I understand it's not going to set a lap record, but how far can I set a lap record with myself?
Exactly. Time against yourself.
Time against yourself, and, like, having oddball things like that out on track is, I think, what's more cool, because everybody has a Miata. Everybody has a 911. They're fantastic cars. They're the perfect weapon for what they're used for. No doubt about that. Yeah. There's a reason they're popular. Just as much as I hate LS Swap the World, there's a reason that LS Swap the World is popular, to my chagrin, just because I hate the clichéness of it. It
makes sense.
Those stereotypes exist for a reason. However, when you see somebody like tracking an old 80s Volvo wagon, or something like that.
I do want to touch on that subject real quick.
Okay.
Speaking of Volvo, I went to a track day about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
There was a guy in an XC90.
Oh, really?
Yes. And he was giving it the beans.
What year?
06.
Oh, it was one of the ones with the Yamaha V8.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Did it have like an exhaust and stuff?
No, it looked bone stock. He was just just out there, and I respect it. I respected the hell out of it.
That is hilarious. Like what else was out there on that day?
There was other like track cars. There was Mustangs.
That was just a wide open Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's oh my hell. I've joked about it would be funny to take some really oddball thing like my parents' Sequoia out on a track for no reason other than just to do it for the hell of it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, he was out there in an XC90 just having the time of his life.
That poor car.
Yeah, for sure.
That poor 5,000, 6,000 pound beast just trying to haul itself down from whatever speed he got going.
Yep.
Oh my God.
But as another note, on that same day, there was a 700 horsepower Mustang.
Damn. Okay.
The only time he was pulling away from me was on the straights. I kept up with him in the corners. I was trying to pass him through the corners.
What year?
13-ish.
Oh, so it was an S550, so the newer ones.
Yeah. No, it was like a 15. Yeah, so S550.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it had a fake GT 500 front bumper on it, but
see that's we're going to call that driver mod failure, because those cars
Absolutely.
should be quick. That, like, those cars being that they have a non-live rear axle, they do have limited independence, stuff like that. They are better than what he was clearly doing.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not the car, it's the driver.
It's not me, it's you.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly you're failing this poor car. The car should have a better chance than this. A Mazda 6 at the hands of anybody should not be able to keep up with.
No. And I guess he told me it was 700 horsepower. Who knows what it actually was?
It was 700 on a good day with a good dyno with a tailwind.
Yes. Yes.
What did you see what was done with it? It was like pro-charged, or?
I did not. It sounded like it was supercharged.
So it's probably a bolt-on pro-charger
Yeah.
kit, similar to the one that Gavin and I drove.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Those are very common.
Yeah.
It's because they're cheap and easy.
Yep. I did run into another pro-charged Mustang on the street one day, and I heard it, so I asked him. I was like, "Oh, dude, what's done to that thing?" And he's like, "Oh, I just pro-charged it like a week ago."
Nice.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he gunned it from that light, and I tried to gun it, and he was gone. That car stuck and went.
What color was it?
Blue.
I wonder if it was the same one. Or no, it wouldn't have been. Sorry. The individual that we borrowed the car from, he didn't pro-charge it himself. He bought it that way.
Okay.
So I probably wouldn't have been the same car, but it stuck pretty well. What was weird that Gavin and I noticed with that car is you wouldn't inside hear the pro-charger at all.
Really?
It's bizarre, and I'm not sure why exactly that was, but outside, when we would film flybys and stuff, you could hear it.
Okay.
For some reason, all the noise carried forward, but not really into the cabin, which was weird. But we noticed with that car as well, despite it being on effectively stock setup, wheels, and everything else, it didn't completely outpower the car and the wheels and things like that. Granted, I'm not sure what tune was on his, but...
Yeah. And with what you see on the internet, it's kind of surprising.
I mean, yeah, Mustangs going into crowds is sadly a thing that has become a meme.
It is.
Because people like to do dumb shit, leaving a fucking Cars and Coffee for God knows what reason.
Yeah. They got something to prove that they know how to crash a car.
Yeah, I know how to ruin $40,000.
Yep.
That's funny.
Watch me waste my money.
Watch me turn this beautiful piece of metal into a tree.
Yep.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's sad. Well, on that note then, I don't really think I have like too much more. I mainly just wanted to like talk through with you and like your car stuff and everything like that. So, well, I guess we'll have to see if you end up getting rid of the Mazda and moving on to something else.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I toy with it, but then I really think about it, and I don't know if I can. I love that car.
Well, the car's been with you a long time.
Yeah.
At this point, it's a part of you. That's the same way I am with the Saab. Granted, I at this point I own the Saab outright, so it doesn't owe me anything. I don't need to get rid of it for any other purpose. But cars get under your skin, especially when they've been with you through a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, and I've only had this car for, only being relative word, but 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't generally keep a car that long.
I don't either.
This is the only car that I've ever re-registered.
That's telltale right there.
Yes.
Because I was in a similar boat up until I bought my Saab. That was the first car that I kept for a noteworthy amount of time. That and my first S6, because I kept that for 3 years, I believe.
Okay.
But up until that point, I'd been a new car roughly every 6 months or so.
Okay.
Just churning and burning, getting different shit. And the Saab is now, let's see, at the end, so this year it will be 8 years that I've had the Saab once it hits September. So I'm at 7.5 right now. And haven't had any complaints. I didn't imagine I would ever own a car that long, to be honest.
Yeah, I get that.
Because that sounds to be like where you're at with the Mazda.
Yep, I think so.
Man, that's crazy. It's wild, but I guess we can just see what the fuck happens. But it'll be cool if you end up getting a Stinger. I mean, I will very much share and revel in the love of it because I really miss mine. But
there's a few other cars I'm looking at, but the Stinger's up there on the list.
As always, we end on like that. I don't think that there's another car that for the price that you can get it for can do as much as the Stinger can.
Yes.
It's not a 9 or 10 in really anything, but it is like a 7 to 8 out of 10 in almost every category.
Yeah. It's up there. It's a phenomenal car and it does everything great.
Yeah.
Not perfect, but great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of the Exhibition of Speed podcast, this time with Jaden.
Yes, sir.
As always, please go like and subscribe on YouTube. Check out our videos. We do have some more stuff coming up in April. We'll be launching a bunch of short form content and trying to get just a few more videos out for you guys every week. Once a week is the goal. So that should be starting around April. We have all of our old backlog of larger films if you want to just burn a quarter of an afternoon. Those are all good. Hopefully you've even watched some of those. We still have merch as well. Like we have a table over here with some merchandise still hanging around. We have stickers, hats, shirts, you name it. You order it, I ship it. That's how this works. That's honestly the best way you can support any small creator, like us or otherwise, because it's better than AdSense, which is about as much of a roller coaster as any Six Flags. But yeah, so go to exhibitionofspeed.com to order that stuff. Hit us up at mailbag.eos@gmail.com if you want us to respond to something or talk about something. We are on Instagram, Facebook, etc. But that being said, thank you all for listening. I have been Justin.
And I've been Jaden.
And this has been the Exhibition of Speed podcast.